Today's Do This Today is very simply laugh from your heart. Laugh out loud if you can. Many years ago, I went to a summer camp, church camp, and one of the little activities that we did, you have a bunch of kids, it's hot, it's summertime, they don't always want to, or maybe it's raining, and you would otherwise like to be outside romping around, but you can't because it's raining and wet and oogie. So they did an activity. There was an activity that was surprisingly effective. There were a number of them that were actually pretty good, but this one stands out in my memory in this regard. And what it was is we would, all of us lie on the floor on our backs, and we arranged ourselves in such a way that everybody had the back of his or her head on someone else's stomach, which sort of requires that you turn 90 degrees and then somebody else is 90 degrees from that, and you just sort of work your way across the floor like that. And if you do it right, you can sort of eventually make a circle to where every single person is resting on somebody else's stomach, the back of their head. And then the first person somewhere in that list, somewhere in that line, says, ha. And the second person goes, ha, ha. And the next one goes, ha, ha, ha. And of course, when you do that, your stomach moves. If you do it properly, ha, it's like you wiggle. And so that means the person's head wiggles, and it feels very odd to have that happen. And usually by about the time you've reached ha, 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 the whole place is just in stitches. People are just howling because it's just this very odd experience, and for a bunch of kids, it's just a hoot. It was just very fun. So everybody, and then of course, once you really start laughing, then everybody's head's bouncing up and down. Anyway, I don't know that you can find a way to practice. And it was memorably called tickle belly. So, it's like you are resting on someone else's stomach and it begins to tickle you, and anyway, very cute. But even Yogananda recommended, in this regard, he said, read one funny story every day. And I will tell you, I personally have not managed to practice that. I have tried in my various ways, and I certainly have developed something of a keen sense of humor, and I appreciate a keen sense of humor, especially when it's a kindly sense of humor, not as opposed to the cynical and sarcastic, which can also be quite funny, but the more uplifting kind is the more generous kind that laughs with people rather than at them. But even Yogananda said, read one funny story a day. And Swami Kriyananda practiced that. And he had a P.G. Wodehouse book, P.G. Wodehouse being the famous English humorist who gave us Bertie and Jeeves, the valet who is sort of all capable, and Bertie's kind of the bumbling young master who who has hired Jeeves, and Jeeves is basically bailing him out of all kinds of trouble all the time. But there are dozens of stories and literally dozens of novels that P.G. Wodehouse wrote over his lifetime, and they're wonderful. And he was a master of the English language. So he's, for an author, he's an author's author. He's a pleasure to read and a joy to tune into. And wherever you can find it in life, it is vitally important to learn to see the humor in it, to have perspective. And at the beginning of this, I said, laugh from your heart. And I say that very particularly because Swami Kriyananda once, I think it was in India, but it could have been somewhere else, apropos of nothing in particular, we were not in Italy when he said this to me, apropos of nothing, he just once in Italian said to me that true laughter comes from the heart. And I thought that was very interesting. First of all, that he said it to me in Italian, which was kind of strange. But secondly, it's very insightful, because really I don't know how many people I have heard laugh who can't really laugh. It's almost like they're hopping around on one leg. There's something blocked in the heart. And so you sort of get this it's like they're trying to make the sound of laughter, but it doesn't come out. It can't get through. Whereas when you really laugh, when you just cut loose and laugh, it's like the tears can run down your face. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I have discovered that there are these two little muscles on the back of your head, and they get exercised. They can actually begin to hurt when you laugh really hard, because you're using muscles that you never think of, that you didn't even know you had. And it's a marvelous thing to laugh from the heart. It's good for your digestion, it's good for your health, it's good for your emotional state, it's good for your life. I'm not talking about trivial laughter, but to just appreciate the spectacle of life, the bizarreness of life, the entertainment value of life. God is the ultimate dramatist, and it behooves us to appreciate the drama and the humor of the drama, because ultimately his drama is joy. We may not always see it, we may not always appreciate it, but ultimately it's underneath there. So laugh from your heart today.